All right, I believe that we are live for the very first Another Fishing. Well, I don't believe we've ever done Another Fishing podcast live before. So, if this is working, welcome to the live broadcast. I don't quite yet know how to do anything as far as like see comments or anything like that. Hopefully, they'll just pop up in this incredible software that I have, Ecamm Live, and I can answer if anybody's got any questions or anything like that. I'll be able to answer comments just on the fly here doing this live. But thank you so much. This is podcast episode number 48. We're nearly to 50, and today we're going to be covering so many exciting things like, hey, I filmed Major League Fishing's College Fishing Championship down on Lake Tahoe in Florida, so I'm going to be talking about that a little bit. Is it finally time to go ice fishing? Yes, it is cold as a witch's. I'm going to censor myself a little bit. It's very cold outside. I think we're getting close. I think it's time to go ice fishing, or nearly time to go ice fishing. Berkley's come out with some new forward-facing lures, forward-facing sonar lures that I think are very, very cool, that we're going to check out and talk about. There's a plastic boat that I think is very close, if not to making kayaks obsolete. And I'm going to start this, I think, every week. We when I used to do this podcast with my main fishing buddy, Pete Wagner, we used to kind of talk about this kind of stuff. But I want to bring this back, and that is the topic of, not the topic of UFOs necessarily, but of course we can talk about UFOs. But what to talk about, topics to discuss when fishing sucks. And boy, oh boy, do I have a UFO story here. And there's so much more. Let's get into it. What do you say? Let's start this podcast.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
All right. So, let's get into it. So I had the distinct pleasure of filming Major League Fishing's College Fishing Championship, National Championship. And it was a great experience. I liked the warm weather very much down there. It wasn't tremendously warm, but anything is warm coming from here. Essentially, I'm near Minneapolis. Down to Florida, flew into Orlando. And this was on the Kissimmee chain. Lake Tahoe is on the Kissimmee chain of lakes near Orlando. And great big fish in Lake Tahoe. I was only fishing the final day of the event, or filming the final day of the event. So it was just by complete luck, the guys that I was filming were actually from Minnesota as well. Their college is based out of Alabama, but where I was actually, the guy where these guys are actually from is from Minnesota, Grand Rapids, Minnesota to be exact, where my beautiful wife grew up, went to high school. Same high school that these anglers that I was filming went to high school. And now they're going to college in Alabama, and they are fishing, I should say, for the University of Montevallo. And I'll just show you some, just to kind of bring you up to speed on kind of what I've been up to here lately. Oh, what a beautiful smile. That's many, many years of orthodontic work. But yeah, so I was down in Florida, and I was filming these guys here. This is Nicholas Dumpke. He is on the right there with that awesome stash. And then Easton Fothergill is on the left. And that was actually the first day. I didn't film the first day. So this is supposed to be a 3-day tournament, and they shortened it to 2 days, filming for the television show on the last day. That's why I was brought in. But this was their first day's catch, basically. I think they had 27 pounds for a 5-fish limit. But again, these guys, they are fishing out of the University of Montevallo. I believe that's how you pronounce that, and which is in Alabama. These guys live in Minnesota. Good to see that Minnesota is representing here. Finally, I feel like for the longest time, Minnesota, I couldn't figure out why Minnesota wasn't a better, represented like state in competitive fishing, but that seems to be changing now. We got these anglers here from Minnesota, did very well. Again, this is Nicholas Dumke on the right there, and Easton Fothergill. These are the anglers that I was filming on Thursday of last week, and they actually ended up, I believe, they ended up in 4th place, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So, but that first day, they fishing, they did really well. 27 pounds, I think, was that 5-fish limit. Great 5-fish limit. Second day, they ended up with a little less than that, quite a bit less than that, unfortunately, but still they ended up in 4th place. So I had the pleasure of working with those guys. Like I said, they're from Grand Rapids, and they ended up in 4th place. So not far from the takeoff. They were fishing pretty close to the launch ramp where everybody was launching from, and they ended up in 4th, like I said. The interesting thing is that obviously these are younger guys, and it seems like the thing to do now is to be live scoping. So many guys were out live scoping. This is something that I've filmed a lot in Florida. And one of the things that just has been changing now is that back in the day, it was just standard. Everybody would be, up shallow. Even if they weren't up shallow, they were fishing, offshore, but they were fishing like big, vegetation, hydrilla or something vegetation-wise, and like visible cover. If it wasn't visible, like you could see it coming out of the, water, it was something that was submerged. So submergent or emergent vegetation. Well, it seems like now with the advent of forward-facing sonar, these guys are out in no man's land, and they're just using their forward-facing sonar to see what's out there and just scanning. So Nick and Easton just did a ton of just scanning, not even casting, just scanning with the forward-facing sonar out in like no man's land. I think they described it as kind of they were out in the basin, but it was just out, deeper water, but nothing's really that deep in Florida, and just scanning with their forward-facing sonar and looking for schools of bass, and that's how they were fishing, and it's just what you're going to just be seeing a lot more of, which is just it's a whole new world, and we're going to be talking more about forward-facing sonar here shortly, but it's just very, very interesting just to see how things are changing in the world of fishing, and how the boats are changing, the trolling motors are changing, and so much of those changes are due to forward-facing sonar. Obviously the lures, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. So changing the page here. As you know, I'm a big-time note taker, and I've got my Coca-Cola Cherry, which is such a wonderful beverage. I have to have it for these live streams. I mean, just, this is a milestone. I guess I haven't talked about this. I'm trying to do a live stream right now. It's a totally different experience for me. Never done a live stream with this setup. This is called Ecamm Live, the software that I'm using, but I've never actually tried it for a live stream, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to try a live stream today with this software. I've just used it to record in the past. Now I'm just going to today I'm just going to wing it and see if I could do a live stream with this. This software is like very, very capable. I could see who's in the live stream. I don't see that I'm actually on YouTube, but I see who's in the live stream. There's a way, I think, to see comments, but I haven't quite figured that out yet. But it's just I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking, because when I'm just recording, I can stop and I can edit the video. Now, to know that there's people watching, and someone just gave me a thumbs up. Thank you. I see that. I appreciate that very much. That helps with my confidence doing this, this is very important to have confidence and when you broadcast, because the biggest thing, if I can give anybody a tip, if they're uncomfortable being on camera or going up, talking to people in a public setting, public speaking, just act. Just act like you have confidence. If you act like you have confidence, if, you might stumble, act like it doesn't bother you one bit. Just keep going. Water off a duck's back. That's the number one tip I can give you in broadcasting. Act like nothing bothers you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm completely acting right now. As far as hiding, what I'm doing is I'm hiding my anxiety that I don't mess this live stream up. So thank you guys for bearing with me here. So here we go. All right, so the plans for this week. So I try to, in the beginning of these podcasts, I try to start, talking about what I'm going to do with this channel for this week, right? I like the idea of doing a podcast, a live stream like this right in the beginning, because I want people to just kind of, set up the week. What's going to be happening on this channel? You get to kind of know me a little bit more, what I'm about. You'll see me in an unedited state here, off the cuff. And I just love podcasts because it's real, and you get a sense of, especially if we do interviews and stuff like that, you get a real sense of who people are, the guests that we might have on, or just even us. And I think it's great for that. So that's why I've just always loved radio. I've loved video, obviously. So I just want to combine the two, and podcasting affords that opportunity. So that's my thinking there with this podcast. Start it in the beginning of the week. And then as far as timing, I'm kind of playing around with that. 5 o'clock. I'd be interested in what you guys think, honestly. Put it in the comments. Comment right now. What time do you think is best to do on Monday a podcast like this, a live stream like this? I'm thinking 5-ish, 6-ish, 7-ish. I don't really want it to be much later than that. Obviously, people got to get home from work. Maybe does noon make more sense to do something like this? Let me know. I'm very curious what you guys think on that. So anyway, plans for this week. So this is probably for this week because we're in this weird kind of state right now where it feels like things are finally starting to freeze up here. I'm in central Minnesota, basically. And things, we had open water. We had lakes that were completely open. And so now it's gotten really cold. In fact, I'm like in an ice box right now. It is very cold in my basement here, okay? And I'm thinking that now, okay, finally the lakes are freezing. And so I'm going to give it a few more days, and we should have very good ice. I mean, it has been very cold. Negative single digits and negative temperatures. So that's going to freeze up the lakes very, very well. And so, but I think this week I'm going to concentrate on, doing this podcast and then taking clips from this podcast, putting them up on the channel. I'll probably do a short or two, shorter vertical video up there. But that's probably just all I'm going to do this week. I'm going to concentrate on doing some underwater videos, okay, in this disgusting tank right here that needs to be cleaned. So I need to clean that tank this week. And that's a 90-gallon tank, by the way. And I believe that's like mostly calcium deposits, okay? So don't get too grossed out about it, but it's still quite disgusting. So clean that up. I'm going to do some underwater videos of cool lures that I last week. Was it last week? I think it was last week. I bought some cool lures that I thought would be really interesting to show underwater. Newer lures, perfect. They're vertical, jigging lures, but you can use them for ice fishing in particular. And some really cool stuff there that I want to focus on, really kind of highlight in some underwater videos soon. So the plan is to get that tank clean, shoot some couple underwater videos, and then also do some ice fishing this week. So I'm thinking catfish and crappies is my main focus. I want to get done filming, and so I'll put that stuff, start putting that stuff in next week, and then more stuff down the road. So that's what I want to get into, that schedule. And so that's the plan here. So make sure I don't have anything else here. So this is as far as like what is looking like the possibilities of ice fishing. We have a real nice long range forecast now. And it hasn't looked like this for a long time because of El Nino. We've had 30s and 40s for highs, and we haven't had really, really cold temperatures. Lakes have been opening up, but now with this long range forecast, you can see it here. Tomorrow it's 5 degrees for a high. Wednesday 6, Thursday 4, Friday 3, Saturday the 20th, it's 9 degrees. Sunday, 20 degrees. Starting to come up. Now it starts to come up. Next week, Monday the 22nd, 32. Tuesday's 36. So when we get into end of this week, beginning of next week, that temperature is where I'd like to see, where I'd like to see it as far as like comfortably fishing. I mean, you could still ice fish, obviously, in those temperatures. The lake should be well frozen, plenty ice by then. But when you get into that 32, 36 temperature, as long as there's not crazy wind, that is when I try to do some smallmouth bass fishing, open water fishing behind, warm, downstream of warm water discharges. And so I'll probably be focusing on smallmouth bass fishing early next week, and maybe walleye fishing near Red Wing, Minnesota, in the warm water discharge there. But that is kind of what I'm thinking here. We got some much nicer weather coming down the pike. As far as just freezing stuff, I mean, it's all relative. Nice weather. Nice weather for freezing lakes. Let's put it that way. But as far as, I'm excited that we finally, I'm not like, I don't like that it's super cold, right now. It's like, especially down in my basement, they turn off the heat. I'm on off-peak heating, if you've ever experienced that or been a part of that. So, not to dwell on this too much, but it's basically we have a arrangement with our heating, with our electric company in order to save some money, they cut the electric off at certain times of the day, and in certain parts of the house, just to save, parts of the house that we don't use as much maybe, and down here in the basement I don't use it as much, so it is it's turned off right now. So I'm basically just I don't know how I'm it's amazing you don't see my breath yet. So that's what's happening. I don't particularly, I'm not necessarily a super like winter person. I'd rather be warm, but I love to fish, and I try to find out ways to fish no matter what. And in the winter, you gotta ice fish. So if you live in Minnesota, so that's what I'm doing. We got good freeze happening right now. So ice fishing's on the horizon, but that little bit warm up next week, I think we're going to be able to do some smallmouth bass fishing and some walleye fishing below warm water discharges, or downstream of warm water discharges, I should say. So forecast is looking good for doing a variety of things. So I am excited about that. I have been kicking around the idea of, so with this channel, as I've said many times, I am a complete and utter, I've been a complete and utter moron when it comes to social media. I'm very old school. And so old school video production, that's just how I've done things in the past. And in the past, what am I talking about? It's just, yes, in the past. I have done video production in the past for 24 years, nearly. 24 years. Actually, exactly 24 years. So I'm an old school video production guy. And it's just taken me a long time to wrap my head around social media and all it means. I love it, but I'm just super stubborn. And it's just been very difficult for me to just fully just comprehend it and how to best be a part of it, right? So this idea with another fishing show, I've talked about this so many times, and I'm sure if you guys have followed this channel, even before, the stuff we were doing before this channel, it's just been a long road. And I think what I would like to try to do, because I do have more free time this year, is I think I need to devote more time to getting another fishing show. Like the whole reason that I started doing videos on the internet was because of another fishing show. Was this more kind of grandiose, video, fishing show, fishing video. It's more, I'm rambling right now, and I was afraid I was going to do this, especially now that this is a live stream. I have a tendency to ramble anyway. So all I'm trying to say is I think I want to do another fishing shows, these more elaborate videos, these more elaborate episodes with my buddy Pete, my fishing buddy of a lifetime. I think I want to do more of those throughout the year. And so I don't know, I in the past I've thought like quarterly, and maybe that's where I should just start, is try to do 4 of these a year. But I do think that needs to be something that's happening more. And so that's a plan that I want to start implementing this as quickly as possible. I want to start filming and editing more Another Fishing Show episodes. And that's going to be, I think the first one I'm looking at is this, there's this ice fishing competition in Brainerd, the Brainerd JCs. I believe they consider it the biggest ice fishing contest in the world. And so that's happening in early February. I think Pete and I should, Pete and me? Is it Pete and me or Pete and I? I don't know. Jeez. Pete and me. That does not sound right. Neither does Pete and I. Pete and I, let's just go with Pete and I. We're going to do that. And that's kind of like the kind of stuff that I think we need to be doing more often. And that, I just wanted to share that and kind of let you know kind of what I'm thinking in those regards. And I'm not quite sure how to pull it off yet, but Another Fishing Podcast is going to still happen every Monday. Maybe do more live content. I don't know. It feels a little live content. I don't know. I feel like I'm jumping out of an airplane all alone here, and it feels a little vulnerable doing live streams more than just a recorded video like this, a recorded podcast. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so I think those Another Fishing Show episodes need to be more of a thing, probably more than quarterly, so maybe 6 a year. I don't know. But we're going to figure something out. So Another Fishing Podcast every Monday, and then Another Fishing Shows more than quarterly is the plan. All right, so let's just get into fishing news here. And we are moving on from angling uploaded news, going to fishing news. And boy, there's a lot to talk about. And so Berkley, who I just absolutely love everything about Berkley, nearly. It's one of my favorite all-time fishing companies. And they're coming out with all kinds of amazing baits now. I'm a huge fan of their power baits, their soft plastic power baits. That the scent impregnation, it really works. I've seen it work firsthand. And the fact that those fish are attracted to it, really, smallmouth are really, really attracted to it, but I think a number of fish are. And then the fact that those fish, once they grab it, they hold on to it, that to me is a huge, huge deal. So I'm a big fan of Berkley. I believe that, probably more so than any fishing company out there, they really are science-based. And I know for a fact that power bait works, so I've been a fan of Berkley for the longest time. But they're making so many great baits now, and their hard baits are just coming, like, they're just really, really impressive now. So Berkley's coming out with a number of forward-facing sonar designed baits, and here's one of them. This is called the Berkley Finisher. And this hard bait, it sinks. And the thing is, when you're looking at this, you got to kind of think like it's a jigging wrap sort of style bait. Like it's got that kind of action, a darting, super erratic action to it. We'll show you some videos here shortly, just give you an idea. But that's a pretty unique looking lure there. But this one in particular is even more unique. This is called the Berkley Kredge. Kredge is jerk backwards. So it's like a jerk bait, but an upturned nose. And that upturned nose does a lot of different things. And this is essentially a whole new line of baits. This is a whole new genre of baits that Berkley's coming out with. So this comes from Bass Blaster, Jay Kumar at Bass Blaster. Berkley is designing baits for forward-facing sonar. What does baits designed for forward-facing sonar mean? Baits that can be fished throughout the entire water column, top to bottom, with actions from chill to aggressive, which anglers can manipulate watching the screen to get fish to commit. Also baits that can stay in the strike zone longer. Berkley marketing head manager John Schlosser says, anglers with forward-facing sonar are now able to see what Berkley has been seeing in the lab for years, meaning how bass are reacting to stuff in real time. Match the hatch, deliver a certain action. We wanted to go to a different route and attack it differently. How do I get a bait to fish accurately? How to get it to stay in the strike zone longer? How to draw the fish out of cover? And once I draw it out of cover, how do I get the fish to commit? How to keep a lure in the strike zone without forward-facing sonar? We are guessing. Get it there fast and keep it there. So the crazy thing is now with forward-facing sonar is that you can see where fish are, and you can see, like, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the water column, in the middle of the lake, where you wouldn't have targeted fish before. You can now see where fish are, what depth they're in, how far away from the boat they are, and then how they're reacting to your lure. And so that's something else. And so it's the fact that now those fish, you're able to target fish in the middle of the water column. You're using lures now that just there hasn't been a need for lures like this before, I guess. And so let me just keep reading this. So Berkley PhD scientist John Prochnow says, now that anglers are watching fish live on sonar, we think we're in a very unique position from the things we already know. Decades of fish science, including lots of watching bass. We can find ways to help the angler interact with what they're seeing. We're using science and technology to find the next frontier for anglers to interact with fish. And yeah, I would say that's definitely the case. You're just, I mean, the fact that, you know, these fish are just, they've just never been fished for before, and now you're able to just present lures in a completely unique way to them. So this is a Berkley Kredge. What's a Kredge? It's jerk spelled backwards, because this is a lot like a jerk bait that swims backwards. That bill makes it look like the Jackal riser bait, a topwater, but the Kredge is totally different bait. It's a jerk bait like a stunner body, but for forward-facing sonar. So that lip, if you're just listening to this, that lip, so imagine a regular jerk bait lip, that lip is not pointed down, the lip is pointed upward. So it swims up when you jerk it, and it backs up and sinks when you give it slack or drop your rod tip. You cast it, and it will sink backward and shimmy roll on slack line. Then it will work up the water column if you jerk it, or you can keep it where it is in the column, working it back slower. So bass like to hit something that's above them, including near the surface barrier. Lots of times fish will open their mouths for something backing up towards them. It's a jerk bait-ish that you don't just jerk away from the fish. You jerk it away and it swims back to the fish. You can pull it away from the fish, brush pile, etc., then let it slide back to back to the fish, and keep doing that as many times as you want. So it's just like a yo-yo, basically. That's really, really crazy. Berkley's head bait developer Dan Spengler says that when you pull the credge forward, it surges. We did a podcast with Dan Spengler, by the way. Great guy. That surge is not really talked about in terms of bait actions that trigger fish. This bait surges forward and causes that innate strike response. That surge and die when you give it slack so it backs up and shimmies looks like a struggling bait fish. He also said when you pop it or raise the rod tip and then let it flutter back down, it's kind of like what a flutter spoon does. The bait always has action. It always is moving. You can straight retrieve it like a spy bait, and you can make it scurry across the top of the water. It comes in one size, which is 100 millimeter, 4 inches on that. And then let's talk about the finisher here. The Berkley finisher, like the power switch. So we'll talk about the power switch here. The power switch was really their first, Berkley's first jump into the forward-facing sonar game. It's a soft plastic bait. I'll show it here shortly, a video of it. That is essentially like a jig head, how would you describe it? It's like a grub with the head hidden, the jig head hidden in the plastic, and then the tail isn't a curly tail, it's just a straight tail. It's actually just a flat, horizontal little paddle tail on it. And it works very erratically as well. But the Berkley finisher, like the power switch, I didn't really get this one until I saw it in the tank. It's kind of like a hard bait version of the switch in that it can do similar multiple things, but it's also different. The actions of both baits are somewhat like a Rapala jigging rap. So these baits are very similar to jigging raps. That's jigging rap style. People call them glide baits or ice jigs. One of the most popular walleye and ice fishing baits of all time. It also being used on the down low for deeper bass. I've seen it used on table rock for that, like ice jigs. So much that Rapala came out with a bass-specific version of iCast that looks like this. So there's a version of the Rapala jigging rap. A lot of guys are using those for forward-facing sonar as well. They work really, really well. That they're super erratic, and you can kind of just really get that, that kind of lure right on the fish's head well when you can see them with forward-facing sonar. So, all right, every other bait of that style, what anglers call glide baits, is those wings. Berkley and Walleye Pro Chase Parsons wanted something like it action-wise, but wanted it without wings, which wasn't as heavy. What they ended up with after 3 years is the finisher. Chase said all those ice jig style baits are good at one thing, like vertical jigging or casting and hopping it back. But he says the finisher is good at all of them and more. Plus, it has 2 trebles, so your hookup ratio is much better. It sinks a little slower, so it lets you keep it in front of suspended fish. Other tidbits here. It's got erratic side-to-side action. It rolls and flashes as it's darting. Sometimes when you rip it, it can back away from you. When it comes back to center after jerking, the tail of it twitches like a live minnow. You can stroll it, straight reel, maybe even a little jiggle, and it has a little tail thumping action. So that is the finisher. And then Dan Spengler, who is in charge of the hard baits here, he has said if the fish doesn't commit, drop it and fish it horizontal. When I said the finisher seemed like a hard plastic version of the switch, Chase said since it's more buoyant, you can keep it in the fish's face better. Comes in 3 sizes, 5, 7, and 9, 1/3, 1/2, and 3/4 ounce. The baits and the whole approach to designing them is pretty dang interesting. This is from Jay Kumar saying this here from Bass Blaster, which is a fantastic newsletter, email newsletter you should check out. One more interesting deal is that Berkley didn't wait to announce these baits at the Classic or at ICAST, and the baits are available to buy as you read this or soon. That is interesting. Several folks at other companies also been pushing for not waiting for ICAST to launch baits and for fall to start selling them. Maybe this is the start of more of that. Yeah, that is very, very interesting. So, yeah, this is, so forward-facing sonar, it's all the rage. Everybody's doing it. And guys are making specific baits to, bait manufacturers are making specific lures to cater to all of these anglers. And I'll say a lot of them are young anglers. It's crazy how many young anglers are just, it seems like this is all they're doing is using the forward-facing sonar. So, very, very, if you're a lure nerd, which most anglers are, everything that Berkley's putting out right now is super, super impressive. And I just think they're going to, continue to make incredible, incredible stuff. So let me show you, I want to get into, turning the page here, I want to get into some of what, if you're not, this is some video here that I found to kind of better explain how these lures, how you fish them. And this is the Berkley power switch, the power bait power switch. So this thing is made out of power bait, and it's very erratic. It's soft, so it's a little bit different presentation, but I think it's also just going to be a killer here.
Hey guys, John Hoyer, Berkley Pro and co-designer of the new Berkley Power Bait Power Switch. If you're watching this video, you might already have these in your hands, and that's really good news for you, and probably bad news for the walleyes and the bass and anything else that you target. I want to go over one of my favorite ways to work this bait, especially in summertime for walleyes. It has a lot of versatility, and there's a number of different things you can do with it, but one of my favorite ways to do it is to use the darting action of the bait to trigger a fish. So generally I'll try to find some fish on forward-facing sonar. I'll get within 40 to 60 feet of them, make a cast a little bit past them, and then come in over their heads, and this is kind of an important part. I like to give it a couple twitches above the fish. It's kind of a greeting, like, hey, how you doing? I'm up here. And it allows the bait to just kind of dart above their head and get their attention. Then after that, there's a number of different things I do, but one of my favorite things to do is to just let the bait get down to the bottom and then just add a couple little slow twitches and let it coast to the bottom. And really the beauty of this, as opposed to using a paddle tail or anything, is that nice side-to-side action you can get. So I like to just kind of weave it on the bottom and then let the HD printing on the side of it really sell it to the fish. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So again, just make a 40, 60 foot cast. Maybe I see a 3-pack out there, and if I'm in 18 feet of water, I'm watching my bait on the screen get down to them, and then just a couple twitches above their head, and now I'm just coasting past them. So a lot of times I'll see the fish dart right down to the bottom after it, and I know I'm probably in business, but after that it's really pretty subtle. It's just a couple little slack line twitches and then coast to the bottom. Twitch, twitch, coast to the bottom. And I know that bait is just making this nice little zigzag and kind of meandering down there. And a lot of times, you know, after those couple twitches on the coast is when you're going to feel that bite. You can work this bait probably 20 different ways. And a lot of my favorites are pretty aggressive. But today I just kind of found out after watching a few fish that they just want it subtle. So it's these little twitches on the bottom. It makes the bait just kind of meander like that, and touch, and lift off, and meander, and touch. And that's been the ticket for the power switch. So when you get the power switch in your hand and you try it for the first time, remember, there's a lot of different ways to work the bait, but that's definitely one of my go-tos.
Alrighty, there it is, the power switch. Very, very cool lure. I'm excited to try it. I think it can work, you know, even if you don't have forward-facing sonar, which I don't, which I feel so inadequate. But anyway, so the other thing, let me show you we talked earlier about the Berkley finisher, which is a new forward-facing sonar, another one of their forward-facing, Berkley's forward-facing sonar offerings that is coming out. I think you could buy this soon, if not right now. Now there you can see just how erratic this thing is. Really, really trigger fish with this thing. It's an important shot.
You know, so one of the techniques that we're using obviously out here going after these basin related fish is a glide bait. This is a new Berkley finisher in a size number 9, and the first thing that you'll notice with this bait is it looks different than the other glide baits, right? There's no fins, there's no stationary hooks, things that can break on them, and there's also 2 trebles on this bait, so phenomenal for hookups. But the thing that I really like about this bait is some of these fish are suspended, right? We might be in 30 to 35 feet of water, these fish might be 10 feet off the bottom, and this thing sinks a little bit slower than your typical real heavy glide baits. But what it allows you to do is keep the bait above those suspended fish. It's also available in a size 7 and a size 5, and those are going to be the sizes. This is a 7 right here. Those are going to be the sizes that you're going to use in shallower water. And then also where I found good success with this bait too is in the 5, like on weed edges and things like that. So kind of a new age glide bait, if you will, right? Has all the great actions in casting for glide baits. Also works extremely well vertical, and that's why I really like this bait, because it's good in both presentations. 2 trebles, and I'll tell you what, these Lake of the Woods fish, when you put this bait close to it and get that thing dancing around, they're absolutely exploding on it.
He sees it.
Got him!
Yeah. You're coming back here.
I'm coming back there, yeah.
This is not a 3 on the mountain.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
He's thick, dude.
Look at how thick that thing is. Holy cow.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna lose him, that's for sure.
It would be a fun spectator sport.
Yeah.
Well, this is crazy.
Look at that thing.
I wanted you to catch one this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Look at the size of that.
it's not 4 o'clock yet.
Unreal. It is so much fun. It's rough out, it's nasty out. But when you can catch them like that, who cares?
Yeah. Ain't gonna catch them on shore.
All right, girl, thank you so much. Holy cow. That's crazy awesome. Come on.
Just a tank.
That is a thick one. There. Get
All right. Well, yeah, Chase Parsons there. I've worked with Chase quite often. I used to work for The Next Bite, and it's great to see Chase. I haven't talked with Chase in a while, so it's always nice to see him, even if it's just in a video here where he's catching big walleyes. And that, I tell you, that's the first time I actually watched that whole video and really getting the gist of that finisher. I like the idea of why it was created. That makes a ton of sense. All of these, people call them glide baits. In the muskie world, glide bait is a completely different thing than in the walleye world. But and then in the bass world, it's a completely different thing as well. But so in the walleye world, they're calling them glide baits, but the vertical jigging, let's call them jigging wrap style, Rapala jigging wrap style baits. Everybody, they got that odd hook in the back. They got that wing, and that makes gives it a tremendous amount of action. But it's interesting that with that finisher, Chase was saying that they wanted something without all those crazy wings and the weird hook and all that. They just wanted it to look more like a standard hard bait. And from the underwater in that video, it did seem like that was a very erratic bait still, even without all that stuff on it. So I'm very, very interested in seeing how that finisher, the Berkley finisher, how it just fishes in, just in real life, I guess. Obviously, take it from me. I know that there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors used in video production and in marketing videos. I'd like to fish that bait myself and just see how it works. But very intrigued by watching that video and seeing that bait in action, and particularly the underwater. I think that lure has a lot of promise. So that lure seems to be one of these lures that it's more based on once you get in front of their face, triggering a bite, really super erratic. And then this credge, it's a bait that seems like, you found the fish and you're just kind of tempting them. It's a little bit more of a neutral presentation. And here's the credge.
Might have been gizzards.
Okay, so this is this guy's making a
my
cast, and you can see the forward-facing sonar there in the upper left. You don't really see... You see a school now show up, and he's fishing this thing. What's amazing, he's fishing like a jerkbait. And so that's pretty wild. He's fishing like a jerkbait. So you can fish this thing like a jerkbait, and you can yo-yo it also as well. It's a completely unique lure. There's nothing that looks like the credge. I've never seen anything. I mean... It kind of looks like a riser. Mega Bass, I guess, makes that riser.
Barely got him.
Ooh, look at that. On the new Berkley credge. Sunk it down to them, twitched it over their heads. 3.5 pound spot. Nice one.
There it is. The fist bump at the end makes it, it's not hard. It's very easy. You just go out. It can be very, very cold. You make a cast with the new bait and boom, simple as that. But in all seriousness, it does look like a, I don't know, it's a whole new world, all kinds of new presentations and lures to go with those presentations. So the credge, very excited. I'm excited with all kinds of stuff that Berkley's been putting out. The forward-facing sonar offerings, I'm very excited about. I don't even need to have forward-facing sonar to be excited about it. So hats off to Dan Spengler and the rest of the team there at Berkley. You're doing fantastic work. Keep it up. I love what you guys are producing. So I think that covers it as far as the Berkley stuff. Yeah, so I like to kind of just turn my attention a little bit to social media as we're trying to kind of wrap it up here. I like to turn my attention to social media. And by the way, hey, if anybody, I see that there's some people watching, if there's a way to comment, do a comment here and I'll try to see. I'm totally new to the live streaming here. So if there's a way to comment, maybe I'll have to find this out later here. Figure this out later. Yeah, I probably should not mess around with this right now, with this software. But anyway, so thank you guys for watching here in the live stream, and just thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the podcast just in general. As I'm getting closer here, there's some sound that happened. I'm wondering if that is a comment that I don't know how to access here. Let's see. Okay, yes, now I'm seeing the comments. Gonna bring those up. Hello, looks and sounds good. Did this work? Yes, now I can see the comments. It's a whole new world, guys. Thank you. Okay, yes. So Martin, I can see that Martin's here. Hooks and Hammocks, looks and sound good. Thank you, Hooks and Hammocks, for checking this out. Again, this is the first time I've done a live stream. Just kind of jumping and hopefully, hopefully the parachute opens, and I still feel like I'm just falling here. It's a lot easier when you're just recording as I said earlier. So I don't know though, it's kind of exciting, and I'm learning how to use the software, and we're just going to keep on going. So thanks for the comments, guys, and the comments do work. Now I know. All right, so moving forward here, we are going to talk about kind of getting towards the end here of the live stream. I like to focus on things that I've found that are interesting in the fishing world on social media. I'm a social media addict, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are. And it's just fun to see what's kind of going on social media in the fishing world. And thought I'd share something I found that I thought is really quite amazing. And it's, well, I've talked about this before. So Tiny Boat Nation, TB Nation, tbnation.net, you should really check out, especially if you're interested in maybe buying your first boat, don't have a lot of money for a big boat, you want to really deck out your already existing smaller boat. Tiny Boat Nation customizes, they do all kinds of customization work, all kinds of videos showing you how to customize your boat, products to customize your boat, and they really focus on, well, tiny boats, imagine that. So there is a light skiff is the name of it, light skiff that they're selling on Tiny Boat Nation, so tbnation.net. Okay, they have a store there, and they're offering this light skiff. It's a plastic boat that I think has a really good chance of just making kayaks completely obsolete. And look at this thing. So this is a shot from above, okay? And it is, okay, so it's $3,300, right? But some of these kayaks nowadays are approaching that. And this light skiff, and again, this can be found on tbnation.net, okay? tbnation.net is where you can find this. And you can put an outboard on it. It's got storage. It's got all these hatches, like, you know, compartments. And it's essentially, it's a boat. It's a boat that you can put a trolling motor at the front. You can put a trolling motor on the, you know, a transom mount trolling motor, an outboard on the back. Highly customizable. So these guys at Tiny Boat Nation, follow their social media, follow their YouTube channel. You can see all the custom work that they do. And this is just a really, really cool boat that I think, I mean, looking at some of these kayaks, they're getting so, I don't know, they're getting a little bit out there as far as I'm concerned, as far as all of the you know, stuff that you can put on them. And it's getting to a point where you might as well just have a boat like this. It's going to be more stable, and it's going to have better compartments on it. So really, really impressed with what this, it's called, the people that make it is called Milha, M-I-L-H-A, and it's their light skiff. It's a 13-foot rotomolded boat. And I also have, of course, let's bring this up here. I also have a video here that kind of gives you a better idea of what's going on. So check this out. And this is from Tiny Boat Nation.
If you've ever wondered whether or not a true crossover exists between a kayak and a john boat, something other than these cheap plastic boats that you see at Bass Pro, well, check this thing out. This is the first true crossover tiny boat to ever hit the market, light enough to be towed on kayak dollies by yourself, even to be just truck bedded, just like this. But inside is what really counts, for it has tons of storage and a full deck. You never get wet like you do in a kayak, and you don't have storage problems like you do in a john boat. It's all pre-built right in, and you'll never see a kayak be able to do this. And even though it's such a lightweight platform for its size, it's still a true boat, meaning you can rig out things in it: live scope poles, batteries, graphs, fish finders, trolling motors. We even do custom platforms and modifications right to the boat before it ever leaves our shops, per the customer's order. And its fairly symmetrically sound layout allows you to put other things, other drop-in mods, like these vertical tackle trays. All these things help tremendously when you're trying to make the best of your time out there on the water. It even accommodates 2 people standing up freely on the platform of reasonable weight, without needing a butt seat or anything else. I've tried many things to create a boat this size to be the ultimate fishing platform. John boats, plastic boats, I even tried a kayak. But I'll tell you, I think I've hit my match, because right out of the box, this thing is lighter and performs better and has more built-in accessories for cheaper than you could ever build one yourself. Believe me, I've tried. So go ahead and give us a look. Go on tbnation.net, search Light Skiff. This thing will pop right up, and that is the first step in getting one of the ultimate small rigs out there.
So yeah, it's a great time, to be an angler for many reasons. The lures, the rods. There's just with YouTube, social media, there's more info out there than there's ever been. And then with boats, right? So if you want a super expensive boat, you can get a super expensive boat. You can have all the bells and whistles on it, or you can go the opposite route and get a smaller boat. Still have a lot of the bells and whistles on it at a much affordable price. So it's that light skiff. So as I've talked about in past podcasts, the Neptune is an inflatable boat that I've been looking at. I gotta say, this light skiff, it's got a lot of potential too. So I like the idea of putting an outboard on there. Maybe even an electric outboard might make a lot of sense. There's certainly, I think, a lot less maintenance with an electric outboard, so that would be a plus. And that 13-foot boat, that would be a good size, 13 foot for an electric outboard. Very, very interesting. I just think that particular boat is just very well designed. It's got 2 casting decks. It's got storage underneath the casting deck. Casting decks. I don't think there's anything that size, of that boat that, size of boat that is really offering that, especially with that, just the customization that you can do. It's not the prettiest boat, I guess. It's a little bit just boxy and kind of, it's plastic, right? So you're like, it'd be cooler if they could, I don't know, maybe sex it up a little bit, instead of making it so boxy, maybe put some curves, a little bit more streamlined. I'd like to see that. There's no reason why that can't be done. But that being said, really cool offering for someone who's looking to get a boat, doesn't have a whole lot of money, or, maybe you just want to simplify things and you want a smaller boat, get a little bit more back to basics, but you can still put all kinds of stuff on it. I think that light skiff is a really, really cool option to have. So thought I'd share that with you. And then I think next week I'm going to talk about an add-on to a trolling motor. Let's say you have a cool transom mount trolling motor, or maybe you have a bow-mounted trolling motor, but it's a basic trolling motor. Do you hear my dog? My dog wants me up there right now, wants me to wrap up this live stream. That's Scratch. That's my new dog, by the way. Wants me to wrap up this live stream here, so I'm going to have to do this really quick, or he's going to keep barking like that. He is a Mexican coyote. He's a wild animal. So I don't want him running down here and getting my jugular, so I need to wrap this up quickly. So, all right, so I think what I'll do here on these podcasts, at least try to from here on out, is to talk a little bit about stuff that it doesn't even pertain to fishing. We've done this in the past, but I want to try to get back to this a little bit more. And so I am going to title this is going to be the last thing we discuss here on this live stream. And I'm going to title this Topics to Discuss When Fishing Sucks. So this is what you could talk to your buddy about. Fishing's not so great. Maybe it's great and you still want to talk while you're out fishing. This is a topic that I'm going to just throw out there, and maybe you'll be interested bringing this up out on the boat or out on the ice. However you're fishing, you can bring this up the next time you're out fishing. So this is a really, really bizarre UFO encounter that is making news. And I know this has nothing to do with fishing, but you don't talk about fishing all the time when you're fishing. So this is going to be one of those instances that I think would make for great talk while making some casts. Or just, dropping a jig down into an ice hole. Jellyfish chandelier, latest reported UFO caught on video to stoke public interest. And this is from Anthony Robido he's with USA Today. An unidentified flying object seen in a video flying over a U.S. operations base in Iraq has been officially named the Jellyfish UAP, according to UFO enthusiast Jeremy Corbell. The UFO enthusiast, that's Jeremy Corbell, shared the raw footage of the October 2018 sighting on his YouTube channel on Tuesday. The video appears to show the jellyfish-like object flying over a military base at a consistent speed and moving in one direction. Corbell said the vehicle was filmed over the Persian Gulf at night on an undisclosed day and time. Corbell, who has reported on UFOs for years, said the object moved through a sensitive military installation and over a body of water where it eventually submerged. After around 17 minutes, Corbell said the UAP re-emerged from the water and flew suddenly at a speed far more rapid than what technology could capture on camera. This UAP of unknown origin displayed transmedium capability, Corbell posted on X, which was formerly Twitter. The origin, intent, and capability of the anomalous aerial vehicle remains unknown. So transmedium capability, what that means is that this UFO can go through stuff. It can go through the air, obviously, and then it could go through water. I think it means it might even be able to go through solid, completely solid objects too, which that's weird. So you're probably wondering what, if you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, I'll just kind of go with it, go through it with you here. And this is wild. All right, the Jellyfish UAP, October 2018, U.S. Joint Operations Base in Iraq. And this is from Jeremy Corbell's YouTube channel here. And here is this thing. It looks like, I mean, it looks like something from Star Wars. And it looks like it could be just trash, just floating. If you've ever seen a Portuguese man-o'-war, which is a jellyfish, it just floats, its body floats. And this thing's just floating to the left, and it's translucent. And this is infrared video here. So this is actually a camera that looks through infrared. It looks like heat. And it almost looks translucent at times, and then it gets really dark, which means that it's getting hot. Okay? So it's going past people. The people don't seem to notice it. It's, from what I've heard about this video, is that you couldn't see it. It was only showing up in thermal. And so this thing's just going along, going over a U.S. military installation in Iraq. And now, see, it's getting very dark. That means it's getting hot. It's very, very odd. So this thing, they don't have video of it, but it then eventually goes into the water. It's in underwater for about 17 minutes, comes out of the water, and then streaks off at a crazy, crazy speed. And so I just don't know what to, yeah, look at this thing. That's a close-up shot of it, and it's so bizarre. It's going the same exact speed, and it's getting looks like very translucent, almost like see-through right now. It means, I guess, it's getting colder when it turns to, now it's getting dark. It's heating up. It is wild. I don't know really what to think of it, but I know that we live in a very, very big universe, and there's a lot of unknowns. We could be in multiple, there could be such things as multiple universes, a multiverse, if you will. In our own Milky Way galaxy, there's between 100 and 400 billion stars, of which there are likely planets orbiting around each and every star. That's one galaxy, and there are estimated 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. So it's something, man. We are in very, very strange times that the government is just releasing videos like this, you know, of a jellyfish UFO going over a base in Iraq. So I just thought I'd share that with you and end with that. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Our first live stream. Thank you, guys. We did it. It wasn't crazy terrible. I'll get better at these the more I do them. Monday, I don't know if we're going to do another live stream Monday, but there will be another podcast. There will be another fishing podcast next Monday, and it's going to be even better than this one. So look for that. But maybe you're wondering, you're listening to this for the first time, or you're watching this for the first time. Maybe if you're watching this, you want to know, how can I listen to this podcast, this weekly podcast? Well, you can go to all of the major podcasting apps, search Another Fishing Podcast. You'll find us, so you can find us on all of the podcast apps. Obviously, if you're watching this, you've found us on Angling Uploaded, our YouTube channel. And then also, what else am I missing? Our Instagram. So check out the Angling Uploaded Instagram. And that's how you find us. So appreciate it, guys. Thank you for bearing with me on our first live stream. I'm going to get better at this. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic week.